computer. Okay, so today I'm actually sharing with you a very personal story. So I went through this earlier and managed to get through it without too much emotion. Not saying I can guarantee that now. And as I sort of unfold the story, you'll understand why. So I'm going to do it via a PowerPoint presentation. The notes will be available on the portal afterwards, so don't worry about sort of writing loads of stuff down, because everything will be on the portal for the training section afterwards. So I've already introduced myself. As I said, my name's Helen, and today is all about intentional healing. Now, this is something that I've never really gotten involved with that much, and I don't really know why that is. And a couple of weeks, actually about a month and a half ago, I was on a call with some of our UK practitioners, and a couple of them had actually did a process of doing a remote My Health treatment. And I was like, okay. And I was like, was I super excited? Probably not. Was I intrigued? Absolutely. Okay. Did I feel like I wanted to go out and start doing that? I'm still sitting on the fence at that time. Okay. Now, I'm pretty sure I was on that call for a reason that day. And back in the beginning of October, or November now, aren't we? I actually needed to find every resource I had available to help me through one of the most challenging times of my life. So this is where I really plugged into intentional healing. So I'm going to start I'm going to just screen share and share this presentation with you all, so that you've got that to see. Okay, so everyone should be able to see that now. Just move this out of the way. Yeah, so let me start with beginning. Okay, so yeah, so intentional healing, just sort of a quick and introduction to this. So as I said, it wasn't something I'd ever really delved into on a conscious level. I'm pretty sure now on a subconscious level it was something I was doing. Okay, so it's kind of it's about that sort of projection of awareness with purpose and efficiency, okay, towards the well-being of another person. And I know many of you already do this. I'm hoping some of you are sending me some positive energy today, because I think I'm going to need it in a moment. Okay, so this is the start of a different journey for me, and this is what happened. I was super excited beginning of this year because I found out my daughter was going to be having a baby. This is going to be my first grandchild. So massive change, in lifestyle for them, and also I was just like super excited. So my grandson should have been born he was due in September. He was delivered by emergency C-section at 10:26 on 6th of October. That morning I had been talking to my daughter because I was going to be at the birth along with her husband, and I was like super okay, everything's on standby, I'm ready to come down to the hospital whenever I can, because they wouldn't let me in until she went into active labor. So I'm ready to come, like I'm here. However, that was at 9 o'clock in the morning. At 10:26 he was delivered, and what happened, he'd become very distressed. His heart rate had dropped from 150 beats per minute down to 30 beats per minute. At that point, the person who was looking after, the midwife, I believe it was, or a nurse, just said to my daughter, I'm going to press this button and there's going to be a lot of people appear. And that's exactly what happened. So from the moment she pressed the button to the moment that he was delivered, it was 19 minutes. When he arrived, he was just absolutely covered in feces. He'd obviously swallowed that, and he wasn't breathing. It took, they said at the time, it took about 3 minutes to get his heart beating. Okay. That was a major sort of turning point, because at that point you've kind of got all these questions, you know, like what's happening, you know, what had happened. And I was at the hospital within an hour of him being delivered, but I wasn't able to see him at this time. So first time I met my grandson, and this is the first time my daughter met her son as well. He was wheeled into the room where she was, and this is him. So this is our gorgeous little boy, Mason John Elliott. He's definitely a little boy, even though he's wearing a pink cap. That's all they had available at the hospital on that particular day. I've got to be honest, this was not the way that I had envisaged meeting my grandson for the first time. I had got this picture in my mind. It was going to be such a beautiful birth, and I would get to hold him. I couldn't hold him. He was what we could see of him. He was a big baby. He was 8 £9. But it just wasn't, you know, it just wasn't what we were expecting to happen. So a massive shock for, you know, all of us, obviously with especially my daughter and her husband. So this is what happened then. He was then transported to a specialist paediatric unit at another hospital. And so that was when he was wheeled into the room just before he was taken there. And so I spent the day with my daughter, supporting her because she just had major surgery, and my son-in-law followed the ambulance. And that was just what you just saw in that picture. That was just like a small portion of what this little baby was traveling with. So because of he was starved of oxygen at birth, we were facing the possibility of brain damage. Now, that was really what I struggled to get my head around. And you know, there was these questions sort of firing at me: how, why, what, you know, what's the future going to hold? And you know, and I probably, I openly admit this to anyone who knows me well would know this and can back me up on this one. In the form of a state of emergency, I'm probably the worst person to have around. How I held it together for my daughter that day, I actually don't know. It's amazing what inner strength you actually find. So because of the starvation of oxygen, you know, this was obviously a possibility that we were facing. What they were doing, they were part of looking after him. They were calling him for 72 hours to stop any further brain damage. On top of that, our little boy also had sepsis and pneumonia. So the conversation I had with the paediatric doctor that came to collect him was that, you know, it was a very somber conversation, and he just left me with the words of, he's a very sick little boy, but we can do everything we can for him. And that was a real shock for me. My daughter at this time was completely high on adrenaline. She just was recovering from, you know, surgery. She was high on like painkillers, morphine, and anything else they pumped into her. So she's kind of like thanking everybody, and I'm like, wow, is this really happening? So she then, I got her over to the hospital where baby was, and also her husband, because they needed to be there as a family unit to support each other. So I got home late that night, very little sleep, and do you know, I wasn't in a good place. I openly admit that I was not in a good place. And I was questioning, and you know, me and my husband would like sort of, it was like a game of ping pong, and we were like literally just, you know, ping ponging the questions and the answers, which we didn't have, backwards and forwards to each other. And I had to let a few people know. And the next thing that happened, this message appeared in my inbox on a text message, and it's from Harry. Now, if you've ever received a message from Harry, you probably understand that you sometimes have to sort of, it's almost like it's coded, you have to encrypt the codes. And one of the things that it was a wake-up call, because one of the things that he said in there, remember that NES means a miracle. And do you know what, if I needed to hear a message that day, this is what I needed to hear. And he's like, I'm not sure whether you can actually see that. Let me see if I can just move us out the way. Yeah, that might be able to help. But yeah, one of the things that he said was, NES means miracle. And as I said, that was something I needed to absolutely hear. He's like, we need to remotely transfer the brain holograms in meditative state, and plus he was going to do it as well. He added some other things in there. Okay. And I was like, absolutely, this is what this little boy needs. My help right now. He needs me to send him positive healing messages, as long as my daughter and my son-in-law. So as I said, this was a wake-up call. So I started doing this for Mason, and it's something I've never done before. So it was a real sort of, I had to really dig deep to be able to do that. But it's amazing, isn't it? In a time of any form of situation that is something that we hadn't expected. It's amazing how how things come into our lives and can actually feel very supportive. And I've actually felt quite supported, the fact that I was able to do this, because I felt very helpless that I couldn't be there at the hospital. They certainly wouldn't let me in. And I couldn't be there with my daughter. So it was something I could actually do. So the following morning, I think it was 1 o'clock this is on the Friday. He'd been born on the Wednesday. So this is the early hours of the Friday morning. I decided I was going to do a surrogate scan. And this is something that again, this is completely new to me. And so I got a picture of the Mason, and the only one I've got at this time was the one in the incubator, because that's what we had. And I put that on my iPad, and I was looking at his picture and really sort of connecting with that. And I'd already set him up as a client. And then so I did a surrogate scan for him. Now, I'm going to share the scan with you. Now, the reason I did the scan, okay, was not to detect, what was going on, in his body, or diagnose anything. Okay, the reason I did the scan, because I felt I needed to have more of an anchor to do this healing, this intentional healing for him. Okay, and that was my primary purpose for doing the scan. Okay, however, I want to share the scan information with you, because it kind of makes up part of this whole story in effect. Okay, so it did allow me, to create that more focused attention. So I will take questions at the end of the presentation. So if you've got any questions, and sort of make a note of them, and I'll come back to that. So this was the energy source screen, and we've got the priority coming up on here was night, which was I surprised at that? Absolutely not, because his circadian rhythm, the fact that he was being in the incubator, he was being ventilated. He got sort of things in, literally, I mean, like any sort of spare point on his body, he'd got cannulas in, he was got this ventilator that was breathing for him. Was I surprised about the night? No, probably not. Hydration, that was rather really sort of a thing to sort of look at this point. But what I was able to do from the following screen, so this is looking at the energy strength, so looking at the energy around the organs and the organ systems. Again, I didn't go into, this is not about this is not about reading the scan. This is about me being able to take information from the scan and create more of an intentional healing. Okay, so I've noticed that our little boy was needing a lot of energy. I mean, when we undergo any form of trauma, stress, and that we need those energy reserves, it's amazing how the body will allow that to happen. Obviously, he's in a slightly different situation, and his little body, was needing all the energy it could muster to start that healing process. Okay, so one of the things that I did with the My Health, I put it onto the energy setting and also to the recharge setting, and I used that to do some more healing for him. Okay, so I was sending positive healing messages using the My Health, and this was something that I'd picked up, and this is actually Joy is on the call today. That I noticed that. Thank you for joining, Joy, for that. And it was something that she'd done with another practitioner. So I was like, okay, I can, and I was like, okay, I can actually do this. Okay, so that was my initial sort of, my initial thought from the energy source screen. Okay, sorry, it's not energy source, energy strength screen, I beg your pardon. Okay. Then we go into the energy flow, or some would class as the integrators. Now, again, this is not, this is not diagnosing or detecting. Okay. However, I was aware that it would be a nice idea to share a little bit deeper about things that came up in the scan. So I've made a few. I highlighted a few notes actually, because I think sometimes, even though we don't diagnose or a condition, okay, or a disease pattern, it kind of gives us more confidence. So bearing in mind, this is the first time I've done a surrogate scan, and having the confidence to do that initially, it was like, can I do this? It's like, Helen, yes, you can, absolutely you can, you can do anything, you're amazing. But also understanding that this is actually Mason's scan, it's not my scan. Okay. So I needed the confidence that I could, and I suppose reassurance that this was definitely his scan. Okay. So when I sort of came up with like integrator 3 small intestine. Okay, so looking at the mucous membranes, the gut, nose, throat, lungs. Okay, absolutely, there's a lot of inflammation going on in there, and also the looking at areas of the skin. So that's all to do with fighting infection. Okay, and immunity. EI4, so neurotransmitters and the heart. Okay, so looking at the heart meridian, the hemoglobin, the blood plasma, neurotransmitters in the midbrain, the nerve cell nucleus, bronchioles, and the alveoli. Okay, so again, it was like a lot of correlations with, with what he'd been, what the doctors had diagnosed him with the sepsis and with the pneumonia. Okay. Okay, moving on. So the liver meridian, so microbial infection. Yeah, I mean that, again, that was like, yeah, absolutely. That's what this little boy is facing, is dealing with. And then the heart protector meridian. So its circulation system, your endocrine regulation, looking at the hypothalamus in particular, motor, visual, and auditory regulation, and the looking at this mucus coating of the stomach and the pylorus. So it was really amazing, actually, that I was like thinking, wow, this. I mean, I'm amazed by NES all the time, but this, was like NES on hormones for me. Okay, so going on to the next screen. Okay. Now, I am aware that, and this is sort of partly for me as well, I've got to be honest, that a lot of you guys would be curious. Okay, I wanted to know what was actually going on within the brain function. Okay, bearing in mind, we were facing possible brain damage. Okay, and at this point, we didn't know what would happen. He was going to be called for 72 hours. At that point, they would then do a MRI scan on his brain to determine if and what extent of damage there was. So I couldn't resist, and I knew that you guys, as I said, would be curious to see what came up. But again, we're not detecting or diagnosing anything. Okay, so apparently, when primarily when we look at a scan, we're looking at the 3s and the 4s, within the energy flow, the integrator page. Okay, so there's a 4 coming up on the midbrain. Okay, so what's that telling us? Okay, I've made some notes on this, by the way. It's telling us, it's about important functions in motor movement, particularly movement of the eye, auditory and visual processing. Okay, looking at the neural cells, so this is all about transmitting electrical and chemical signals to one another. So is it telling us there's any brain damage? Of course, it's not telling us there's any brain damage. Okay, it's just showing us actually at the moment within that. I look at the meridians as being like information channels. Within that information channel, that's where the body is requiring more information. Okay, it's the information is not connecting, is not processing correctly. So what this allowed me to do, apart from being kind of curious myself, it allowed me to focus in more when I was doing my healing on specific points, okay, that I knew healing to support with. Okay, next one, here we go. This is within the kidney meridian, so that came up as yellow, so that was not a priority. And here we go, we got the neural cells again. Next one was the looking at the brain function in terms of the gallbladder, and no priorities in there at all. Okay, we're looking at the liver, so we've got the hypothalamus, the linking the nervous system to the endocrine system. Again, this is very much linked with the body's natural circadian rhythm. So, I kind of left that up here, even though it's not really looking at this specific function of the brain, apart from obviously the hypothalamus is, but you understand what I mean. Okay, and then the last one on here. Let me just get that. Okay, sorry, that was the that was the liver. Sorry, getting ahead of myself now. Okay, so those were the different points within the brain function within the energy flows screens. Okay, so again, just to reiterate, make sure I'm clear on this. Okay, not detecting, diagnosing. It allowed me to have a more focused, intentional healing for Mason. Okay. Okay, the look within screen. So one of the things that Harry had put on in his sort of cryptic message was to send intentional healing, using the brain holograms. And interestingly, on the brain holograms came up, it was just Liberator that came up as a priority. Okay, so if we look at I'm taking this from the helpline for the Liberator. Okay, so it's talking about helping us free us from patterns of the past. Okay, it matches with emotions associated with the brainstem, cerebellum, cerebromedulla, and cerebral cortex. So the parts of the brain that we look at within the brain holograms. Okay, but more general corrector of shock and trauma than the brain holograms. Okay, so it's a more of a general protocol. Okay, whereas the brain holograms, as we talk about, they provide us with more targeted work. Okay, so it's about restoring information flow between the central nervous system, the heart, and the connective tissue matrix field. That really, really resonated with me. Okay, so this was 1 o'clock in the morning that I did the scan, and I got my MyHealth and I programmed it to Liberator, and I spent the next hour, I believe it was an hour, because I actually fell asleep, but I think definitely I was meditating for at least an hour and sending healing, and I placed the MyHealth on the Liberator function around my heart area. Okay, and I was totally focused on sending positive intentional healing to Mason. Okay, and as I said before, it felt really good that I could actually actively do something. I felt like I was being at use for something. Okay, other parts on the scan that came up. So looking at the brain performance screen, I was expecting to see some areas around some of the new integrators, but nothing was a priority on there, as was nothing to do with imprinter, memory, on the audio visual section, or the nervous system. Energetic immunity, apart from an orange on the liver, okay, there was nothing of any priority on there at all. Okay, so what I want to share with you now is the ER points. So there was 8 ER points that came up. Now, I've already got, kind of got in my head what I was going to, what I was going to use for my health, but I added in. So I added in. So I sort of went to the protocol, and these are the ones that I chose to add in. So I chose EI3, which is looking at the mucous membranes, in particular the small intestine, looking at the, in particular, where am I? So I'm just looking at, sorry, I've just got my notes around the wrong way. Beg your pardon, sorry, EI3, here we go, right, beg pardon, ER15, okay. So ER15, which is the midbrain field, helping clear energy blockages within the midbrain, associated with vision, hearing, motor control, sleep, wake, alertness, and temperature regulation. Okay, so it's all looking about the heart meridian. I chose ER25, which is the stomach field. This is the stomach field, the gallbladder, the heart protector, and the stomach meridian. Okay. I chose ER32, which is the hypothalamus, and I chose ER37, which is the heart field. So it's the heart field and the heart protector. And then the last one I chose was ER52, which is coronary veins and arteries. Okay, so looking at the heart vascular system and also the lung meridian. So those are the ER points that I chose. And so I, again, I just uploaded those ER points to My Health, and then I would I did the 5 altogether. So I just spent 10 minutes using those as part of that that intentional healing for him as well. Okay. So that was the sort of the actual scan. Okay. So what I want to do now is to just share some amazing photographs with you that, and it just continues to absolutely blow my mind. So this was on the Thursday. The reason I'm sharing this photograph, I wanted to just to point out on here. On the, you'll see, I mean, you can see all the cannulas. I mean, oh, goodness, they'd even using the umbilical cord to run various tests as well. I'm not quite sure exactly what they were using, but he got different heart monitors on. This was his little cooling jacket that he was wearing. This is obviously the ventilator, but these things here that you can see on his head, this is monitoring his brain activity. So initially on the, they got him over there on the Wednesday late afternoon to Southampton, to the specialist paediatric unit. They, on the Thursday, I was obviously checking with my daughter sort of numerous times throughout the day and just helping to support her as well. They were monitoring his brain activity, and this brain activity was quite low. On the Friday morning, I was talking to my daughter, and she had advised me that the brain activity had gone back to normal, and which was just incredible. It was like, wow, how. I'm saying, how is this even possible? Of course, we know it's possible because this is what we do, isn't it? Okay. So his brain activity was back to normal. Okay. We weren't out of the woods yet. There was still the opportunity that there could be some challenges. We just didn't know at this point. Okay. So this was our gorgeous little boy. This was the following day on the Thursday. So we continued to, I continued to do the healing, send the healing for him. We knew that we wouldn't be able to have a definitive information about the possible brain damage until at least day 6 or 7, so we'd have to be once they finish cool, when it's being cool for 22 hours, they then have to sort of start to warm his body up slowly. He can't then go in the MRI until he's off the particular gas. So we had all of this going on as well. So that was sort of day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. This was day 5, and oh my goodness, I cannot tell you how amazing. When that photograph came through, this is my daughter, by the way, and my son-in-law, Samantha and Steve. That was probably one of the most precious photographs that anyone could have ever sent me, because he was just continuing to improve. At one point, I think it was on day 4 or the beginning of day 5, and he's actually managed to get his own ventilator out. He's a very active little baby, so they had to keep sedating him because he just didn't want all that stuff in him, okay? And can anyone blame him, really? But just to see that here he is with his mum and his dad, and the happiness just from their photographs was just absolutely incredible. So this is now Mason when he was 1 week old, as you can see from the little thing carved on his chest. He's still being given oxygen at this point, but his markers are all down. This was also the day that he went and had his brain scan, and we found out the following day that there was absolutely no brain damage. So that was just the most incredible day ever. I mean, yeah, just amazing. So at this point, he was transferred back from the special unit back to our local hospital, and he spent the rest of his time in hospital there. Okay, so we fast forward to the following day. Now, he'd already managed to get his ventilator out a few times. He'd managed to pull the, notice one of the photographs, he's got little mittens on. He'd managed to pull the connections off his heart, because he didn't want those on either. We had to get sticking back on for him. He decided he didn't want this oxygen up his nose anymore either. So he managed to get that out, and he was happily chewing on that instead. So they kind of figured that, you know what, it was almost like he was guiding the doctors, and like, okay, I'm ready for this now, I'm ready for this now, I don't need this anymore. So this was the most, again, I mean, all these pictures are just so precious, but this was just a beautiful picture, because this was the first time we'd actually seen him without, you know, tubes and wires and you know, cannulas in. Just our gorgeous little boy. Okay. The next picture, I've added this one. This just makes me laugh, and I will definitely share this with him again when he gets a bit older. This was just before about the day before he was allowed to come home. So this is like day 11, and the reason he's pulling that face is because he's actually having a hearing test at that time, and you can see he's like, you know what, he just didn't want to be played around with anymore. He just wanted to go home and be with his mum and dad, and meet his nanny and his granddad and all the other family that were waiting, and friends that were waiting to meet him. But I just couldn't resist adding that photograph up, because he was just so, yeah, it just made me chuckle. Okay. Again, you know, such an amazing picture. This is my son-in-law, and the baby's in his little carry, little seat car, and he is going home. Just beautiful, absolutely beautiful to see, you know, and actually, goodness, he's actually going home and where he belongs. And yeah, and it's Jim's, you know, this was day 12, and he's just had such an amazing, he's such a little fighter, you know. The doctors have been absolutely blown away by how sick he was when he was first born, to how he was, you know, literally from day 3 or 4. He literally just progressed so well. And is that to do with the healing that we were sending him? Do you know, I'm absolutely convinced it was. Okay. because, you know, I just felt like I had a sort of a real connection with him. And now, you know, I mean, I just love him to bits and would happily sit and play with him all day. Okay, and then here we go. So this was last week. On the left-hand side, so on the 6th of November, he was on the left-hand side, he was 1 month old. So he's sporting his I'm 1 month old vest. And then this is him on yesterday morning, actually. He came to stay for a couple of hours while Mummy and Daddy went and did some stuff. And me and my husband, we actually had him for the day, or sorry, for a few hours in the morning. And there he is having his My Health treatment. So he now, my daughter now has a My Health at her house, and she's using that on him most days. And then I just couldn't resist making sure that I'm giving him some My Health treatments as well. So that is the end of my presentation. Okay. So you're all muted at the moment, but I'd love to, I've just got some chats coming up. Oh, he looks like your daughter. He absolutely looks like my daughter. My daughter looks nothing like me. And everyone said, my God, he is so like her. So I'm glad somebody else noticed that as well, because he really is. He's like they're like, okay, the girl and the boy, but I've got a photograph of her when she was a baby, and I put them side by side, and they are so alike. It's uncanny. Yeah. So I'd like oh, actually, just before I well, if you start thinking about questions, then please unmute yourselves and feel free to interact. Based on that, I have become now more confident about doing intentional healing, especially with the My Health to clients. So I had a new client last week. He was up in the north of England, so about 250 miles away from me, and I said to him, would you be willing for me to do this at My Health? And I explained what I was going to do, and he said, oh yeah, that'd be great. So he had major challenges going on with his adrenals. So the first My Health function I chose was the R34, and I just pointed the My Health at the screen because I've got him so in my vision. So he was lying down on his couch, and then I chose another. I can't remember which other ones I chose. So the end of the My Health healing, we were chatting again, and I said to him, you know, please be honest with me. Did you feel anything? You know, or give me some feedback, because I don't know. And he's like, do you know what? He said, as soon as you started using it, he said, I could feel a real warmth around my kidneys and my back. He said, then after that, he said, I then went into sort of such a deep relaxation. I said, I didn't feel anything else. He said, but I just feel amazing. You know, so that was like, you know, just incredible for me that, you know, to have that feedback. But yeah, so let's have a look. Somebody's got to go and do a school run. Okay, thanks for that. I'm sorry, I'm sorry for make any of you cry. I really held it together today, because it was just yeah, just amazing, just amazing. So did I only send the healing that day, or did I'm still sending him healings now, every day, whenever I thought about it, you know, because it was it just felt, you know, as I said, it just felt something that I could do. You know, I'm quite a practical minded person, and the fact that, you know, even if I'd driven to the hospital, they wouldn't have let me in. Okay, and I had to understand that. Okay, so I was asking, how did you do the scan? Okay, so I couldn't hold his hand. Obviously, I wasn't with him. I had his. So I think I just picked it up. Let me just answer that question again. So I got his photograph of the one in the incubator, and I had that on my desk, looking. So I was looking at the photograph, and I had it loaded up on my iPad, and then I just tuned in to his energy, and just held that there, and then I just pressed the scan button and waited for that scan to load. Okay, now something else that, because while I was still questioning, was this his scan? Yes, of course, a part of me was thinking, is this Mason's scan, or is it my scan? I did my scan a little bit later on, and I know my body extremely well, and any form of stress, the area that will attack was my adrenals. Okay, my adrenals were like, I'm here I am, give me some help here, because and I was like, that's absolutely my scam, thyroid, adrenals, that's where it goes every time for me. And yes, I was tired, so yes, was my energy of being low? Yeah, we can argue all these points. The fact is, the reason I did it was to be able to have a more focused intention. That was my aim. It wasn't to, and obviously I suppose I was curious. I was absolutely curious because I wanted to sort of see what was going on in the brain, because you've got all these questions and people are not giving the answers because they can't. I've got oh, thank you. Yes, absolutely. We are absolutely delighted to have Mason join the family. How did you choose which My Health function to use for daily support? Okay, and you always go by the scan. This is this is a really good question, because isn't it? I've never done this before, so this is completely new ground for me. So for that reason, I chose functions from the scan, but I also chose other functions. So like I was able to use the energy functions and the recharge functions from the My Health for him. When I'm so the gentleman I scanned last week who was at distance, I just used the ER points for him. Didn't use anything else at that for him. But absolutely, I'd be completely open to using other functions from the My Health as well, most definitely. And sometimes you just, sometimes you just pick up the My Health and you think, I just need a little bit of this right now, because it just resonates, doesn't it? Okay. So have we got any questions? Anybody like to share experiences? Yes, Caris.
Hi, Helen. First of all, I think he is so lucky to have you for his grandmother. I think that's what we absolutely have to say. The other thing, I can remember reading years ago a scientific study which showed that babies are formed in their grandmother's ovaries. So you are, sorry, I'm getting to the tears now. You are so connected to that little boy. And I'm wondering, I don't know why I'm saying this, but I feel obliged to say it. If you took the infoceuticals that came up on his scan, that would have an energetic, I don't know, can't think of the word, but it would have the right impact on you, and you could transmit that energetically to him. What you're doing is what homeopaths have done for ages. They send energy frequency all over the world. Yes. So this is absolutely amazing. I think this is the best NES talk I've listened to.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. That's just really sweet of you to say that. And it's interesting, because somebody else just said that, did you put any pharmaceuticals on the skin? I wasn't allowed anywhere near my grandson until he came home. Yeah. And I was actually waiting in their house when he came home. In fact, I'd taken a month sabbatical, and then I was literally, the day he came home was the day I had gone back to work. I'm like, I might have to finish early today, because I was like, I knew that there was no way that I was going to be like at home or home working when my grandson was going to be at his house. Like, I waited a long time to meet this little boy, and I was not going to wait that. So I couldn't put any infoceuticals. I couldn't send any infoceuticals. Like, I couldn't even give the My Health to my daughter to take. She had a My Health at the hospital to help her, but I couldn't give them the My Health to take into the hospital. Okay. No. But he is now on the infoceuticals, absolutely. But yeah, no, absolutely. Why did I not think I could actually take the infoceuticals for him? I don't know. It didn't even come into my remit at that time. But thank you.
I think you could, and I think we all could, and I think this is why I think this talk today is absolutely brilliant, because it's opened up a whole new vista, which is I'm mind blown on this. And the last thing I wanted to say, I did a quick numerology on his name and date of birth.
I knew somebody would. That's why I put the time in there. Come on.
Lots of ones and threes, one being a leader, three is being a very strong person, and Mason comes to a 7. So a very spiritual boy.
Thank you. Thank you. That's lovely. Thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that. That's lovely. Thank you. Yeah. Hi, Joy.
Hi, Helen. I just thought I'd share in real time, after you asked for some support at the beginning of this, that you had a dose of love, then a dose of chill, and then you've just had 40 minutes of mental clarity.
Thank you. I needed it, didn't I? Thank you. That's really sweet of you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Anybody, it could be difficult to take pharmaceuticals you have many patients to work on. Yeah, I think in this situation, Svana, it's not about taking the pharmaceuticals for all your clients. This was kind of a unique. Otherwise, hey, I'd be like, yay. I think this is more about the fact that we've got the whole. The hospitals are still so tightly regulated in terms of letting people in and out at the moment. On the day that he was born, were they stopping me from getting in that hospital? Absolutely not.
Sorry, Helen, could you maybe do my health file for, with the pharmaceuticals that comes up with the ERs to send daily?
Sorry, could you do what? I missed the question.
When you can make a file in your My Health for a client.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. Could you do that, and then you
can't
it every day?
Yeah. You can't. The pharmaceuticals are not electronic, but yes, you can do absolutely the ER points. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
maybe that would be a good point too.
Yeah, which is what I did. So I mean, he's the reason for this call today, this this training was to anyone who's like sitting on the fence going, oh, I'm not sure about this intentional healing, does it actually work? And yes, can we categorically say yes, it was NES that got our little boy from where he was to where he is now? No, we can't, because we can't claim that. However, do I believe? Absolutely. Because from that conversation, I mean, I can't ever remember having such a sobering conversation with a medical person in my life before like that. And I've had my history of not being well myself. It was just, I don't know how I picked myself up that day. I've got to be honest. I was a bit of a mess. Okay. And I'm not ashamed to say that, because sometimes that can happen to us, all of us, can't it? So I needed that, I needed that wake up call and say, come on, pick yourself up. This little boy needs you right now. And what Karis was saying about, him being formed in, in my ovaries, I totally get that, totally understand that. And we have, I just love him I just absolutely love him to bits. I just want to spend all day with him. I'm not allowed to, am I? I have to be here. But yeah, it was just incredible, absolutely incredible. Yeah, thanks, Joy.
What meditation did you use?
What meditation did I use?
Yeah, or did you just use music?
Initially I didn't use any music.
Okay,
because I was not even thinking that clearly. I was just sending positive healing messages, from my own mind, to him. And then in sort of more recently, because you guys are going to have the guided meditation coming very soon. I have been trialing it, so I was able to take his meditation, download that, and use that as well.
okay, I can't wait till we get them meditations, because I use them all the time, and I love that idea what you're saying, because I'm in a group, I'm in a healing group, and anyway with
Yeah.
with
Well, I had
people.
because I have been trialing it. The client last week, I sent him this meditation, and he was sitting on the fence, do I need the pharmaceuticals, do I not need the pharmaceuticals? And like, you actually need the pharmaceuticals. As soon as he did the meditation, he ordered them straight away.
Brilliant. Oh, I might do that then, Power.
Yeah.
Get a few more people using pharmaceuticals, because we know they need them. It's just that
Absolutely.
they've got to help them free the mind up, ready to take them, haven't they?
Yeah, one of the feedbacks that came back from him was the fact that it started that opportunity to start that healing process, and he felt that that he completely connected with that, and then he was like, literally, then the email came in, your client just placed the order. Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah, and you did really well not to cry at Helen, because you had me nearly in tears as well.
I think it was all the lovely intentional healing I was getting. So thank you very much for that. Thank you. Joy, you've got your hand back up.
Yeah, just one thing that might be worth adding with clients, that we can get them to play the imprint of music in the background as they're relaxing and receiving their distance treatment. So I found that's useful to set the tone as well.
Yeah, I can remember you actually saying that, and actually I think that's something that I've mentioned, included in the call, and I completely forgot. So thank you for that. Yeah, absolutely. Don't, that music is so powerful, isn't it? So powerful. And if you're not using it in your clinic, then definitely would recommend using it in clinic, and obviously then with clients as well. Yeah. Thank you. Just let me check. Okay. Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. It's definitely a waking up different parts. So yeah. Okay. Okay. Oh right. Okay. Right. Sorry. I'm just going back to the messages. Okay. Right. Any more messages? Anybody like to contribute? Anything to the call today? Okay. Well, nobody has got anything they would like to contribute. I think we're probably we've wrapped up in less than an hour, which is fantastic. So thank you all very much for joining me. I really do appreciate it, because and you being here, actually finding the time to be here today. If you want to re-listen to the call, it will be available to watch on the training site in a couple of days' time, along with a PDF of the notes, if you want to go back and have a look at any of those. Okay. I would just ask that please don't, obviously, the photographs of my grandson, see, that's just for our use. Don't really want to see that all over the social media or anybody else's websites. Thank you very much, because obviously I need to appreciate the privacy of my daughter and son-in-law, so I would ask you not to do that. Okay, but I wanted to I didn't want to not include those photographs, because obviously that's all part of the of his journey with all of this as well. So thank you so much, everybody. Thank you. I will see you next month for the next instalment, and we're going to be changing up a little bit and doing more practitioner interviews. So if you've got anything you'd love to share with everybody else, we'd love to invite you onto the call. Okay, so happy Monday, and thank you all so much. Okay, bye.